I am so pleased to introduce Chris Nelson and Catherine Lopez. As our leaders, and with our dedicated and talented state and local staff, technology partners, and thousands of grocers, they brought California WIC to a new place in history with the California WIC card, WIC-Wise MIS, and app. A pandemic was not in the plans. With their staff, they made brave and speedy decisions to complete rollout, which was a total success, and support our huge workforce to work in new ways to ensure services during the pandemic. This is in addition to ensuring other program initiatives were supported, including high quality nutrition and breastfeeding education and counseling, and a vision for WIC's families for today and going forward. On behalf of CWA, we want to say thank you for your commitment to the valuable program, and it is our pleasure to be the State WIC Association for California. Please join me in welcoming Chris and Catherine.
Hello, California WIC community. It's so great to be connected with you today and nice to be back in the WIC program after being away for some COVID-19 work for the last 3 months. Thank you, Karen, very much for the warm introduction. I'm thrilled to be able to provide all of you with a little bit of an overview of what our work has been for the last year, getting ready and implementing this exciting eWIC implementation. This little trip down eWIC memory lane reminds us of where we started, the milestones achieved during the journey, and where we ended up. We started tiptoeing through the tulips, but I think we can all agree that the road was not only long, but a little bit bumpy. But we did it. And today we revisit the experience and gives ourselves the props we all deserve because we have the eWIC spirit. We remember the hard work and look forward to returning to our tulip-laden pathway. So how did it all start? In 2010, USDA awarded CDPH WIC a planning grant. I'm sure there was work done before that point as well, with Linnea Salick, Michelle Van Eycken, and Lori True. To help with the planning, 5 planning teams were formed and worked on specific planning tasks. These planning teams consisted of state and local agency staff. Once USDA approved the project plan, California WIC officially moved out of the planning phase and into pre-implementation, and then the implementation phase. In the planning phases, we started with the design of a card, this green card that you see here. We were so excited about the beautiful green leaf, but don't you think that our final card, with lots of input from many of you, was really a stronger choice? You all participated in guiding the development of the final card, and thank you all for your input. There were many new partners brought on to help with the work. Some you all got to know, and all of you were affected by their contributions. Office of Systems Integration was our state agency partner to serve as the project management team. 3 Sigma Software, who built the WIC-Wise system and made changes to it for California. CGI, who helped to support testing, quality assurance, and operates the WIC-Wise help desk. Solutions West, who developed and provided training on WIC-Wise. OCM, our organizational change management team, which helped local agencies prepare for implementation. And FIS and CDP, who supported vendors to process the new card. For weeks, the 3 Sigma team sat with our teams and went through each and every screen on WIC-Wise during the JAD sessions. The user acceptance testing process and the UAT team evolved as WIC-Wise evolved, and many of you were involved in testing various parts of the system. Thank you to all of the UAT testers who were day in and day out testing the system at OSI or at the WIC office in Sacramento. And special thank you to those testers that were in the room in the WIC office with 20 computers when the air conditioning went out for a couple of days of testing. You stuck with it. Thank you. Each day, our testers moved through screens to see if the screens worked as designed as we wanted them to, and they debated what the fixes should be. All the while, there were other teams developing materials, including the new Welcome to WIC orientation video and lessons plan. The communications groups developed these materials, and thank you to all who gave feedback on all of these. Who remembers what the colored bar at the bottom of a material signifies? Different colors for different audiences. The teams worked on the It's Coming and the It's Here campaign and produced the WIC News series, a publication and video series sharing the newest developments. I loved how these curtains open. Do you remember those? Another team worked on the California WIC app. And yes, we know that there is more work to do to continue to improve the app, but getting it out the door at implementation was a key priority. Based on the data we review, it's widely used by families, and it's truly a critical partner or best friend of the WIC card. To be sure we were communicating hot off the press info, we began the WIC Card WIC-Wise webinar series. These webinars were instrumental in keeping the communications flowing. Your questions in the chat kept us busy answering questions where we could, and at the same time learning from all of you. I wish that all of you were able to sit in a room or maybe be a little fly on the wall watching us scramble to read all these questions in the chat during these different sessions. It was quite fun. Another communication step was the eWIC tile on the local agency SharePoint site. This tile houses all of the important resources, communications, and the FAQs, which has the answers to over 400 of the local agency questions. Soon it was time to begin the work of planning and preparing for data conversion, which is mapping where data from WIC MIS would land in WIC-Wise. The implementation leads began their work on the monthly and bi-weekly implementation calls to each of your local agencies, where the work began on the LAKE, which stands for Local Agency Implementation Checklist. Who remembers going through all these rows and rows of the LAKE? You did a fabulous job addressing the preparation checklist. The Solutions West and State WIC trainers learned the new system, planned and delivered CBTs and ILTs. The QRGs and training videos supported local agency learning. Hi, Katie. Also underway at this time, it was time to prepare and review 25 computer-based trainings and for the new trainers to practice delivering those ILTs. Who remembers what an ILT stands for? Who could forget that lovely voice and the CBT, the computer-based training? Does anyone remember her name? Our two training units were led by Sharon Polito and Catherine Gray, and they received great help from our project partners, Katie Hastings from Solutions West. All those weeks of traveling and even some extra training sessions, and don't forget, ending with virtual ILTs. Our training team deserves a high five. This is a glimpse of one of the classrooms during an ILT. Two of the classrooms. When we realized that our state staff were going to be needed at each and every local agency site during the Go Live days, we quickly gathered staff from across our office to prepare them. We called it summer camp, and we were so grateful to have many local agency staff join us as well. We had staff from our accounting office, our vendor office, data team, office of systems integration, and many local agency staff joining us in Sacramento for a few weeks to prepare and practice and learn about WIC so that we could help support you wave after wave. For each wave, we had nearly 100 people going on site to provide support. When we showed up, we were so thrilled to be there with you and enjoyed your enthusiastic support for the big day. I have to say that that first go live date on the pilot was probably the best work day of my professional career. Thank you to our partners in Solano County and Napa County with that pilot. Each site celebrated a little bit differently as we rolled out. I was thrilled to see all of the matching t-shirts and special gifts from WIC directors to their staff. It was really quite a fun time. Wave after wave, you learned the system and new processes. You supported families and supported each other throughout your sites and across agencies as we rolled from summer 2019 until March 2020. The teamwork was really incredible. And then came coronavirus. We had completed our 9th wave. We had 1 wave left before substantial changes needed to be made, where during the coronavirus emergency, we had to do virtual support and we couldn't do on-site support for our last wave. We had many staff working on temporary policy exemptions and WIC-wise efforts during the huge completion of implementation, the last of the local agencies going live and the last FIs issued. But we made it. Not only did we meet and beat the federal deadline of October 1st, we completed the rollout on March 30th, 2 days before the USDA deadline of April 1st. It was 209 days between the first day of Wave 1 and the first day of Wave 10. Congratulations. And goodbye to WIC MIS or WIC Miss, whichever you call it. Just don't call it that other name. Rest in peace, WIC checks, and adios nutrition questionnaires. All lightheartedness aside, CDPH is grateful for all of your hard work. You were all there and continue to be there as we moved from EWIC into COVID. Everyone has come together during the most difficult times. Unfortunately, our need to be adaptable will continue for the next year. That said, the state will focus the next year on improvements to emerging systems and stability. Let's take a look at our thoughts towards the future.
All right, I'm Catherine Lopez, for those of you who don't know me, and I'd like to thank Chris for coming back from redirection, number one, because we're excited to have you back. And now let's talk about all the work that we have in store for us for the next year. There's so much been going on. It's been difficult to think about the future, but we do have work to do. Today, I'm going to talk about 6 major efforts that we have going on for 2020 and 2021. These are our local services branch, vendor management branch, policy and planning branch, DARE, WIC-wise, and operations. These are the areas that we talk about at our WIC directors call, and we're going to focus in a little bit more today. The local services branch is now led by ELO, and she has 4 RDs who help lead the unit chiefs listed on the slide. We will recognize many names here, as these are the people who many of you were able to meet during WIC-wise. In an effort to provide WIC services during COVID-19, we focused on protecting local staff and families. As most sites closed to the public to protect families and staff, CDPH WIC was hard at work to provide flexibilities and guidance so that we could have a seamless transition from in-person services to virtual services. How fortunate we were that Wave 10 was able to finish and we were able to remote issuance to all of our participants. Alongside many of you, all of us worked day and sometimes nights to ensure that there were policies and procedures that were flexible to allow WIC local agencies to become virtual. Thank you all for your patience. Thank you for holding strong during this very difficult time. To ensure that local agencies were supported and able to provide services, we felt the need for a direct line of communication with WIC directors. Do you remember those daily calls we had when COVID hit. Recall those weeks went from daily, then they went to 2 times a week, and now we're meeting 2 times a month. We quickly learned what was needed and how to better support local agencies. As many administrative flexibilities were needed for services to continue, we received approval for e-signatures, for one quote for procurements, and the very popular informal line item shifts. So happy we were able to do that for you. As local agencies became virtual, so did state WIC. We adjusted ways to check in with you, to train local agencies in WIC-wise and virtual counseling, and even provide virtual PMVs. Who would have thought PMVs would be virtual? This was no easy task, but it was what we needed to be done to support local agencies and provide services to our existing staff, to our existing participants, to new participants, and to those who decided to come back. So what are the next steps and where do we go from here? We continue to hear what the needs are to promote safety and the health of all of our WIC staff and WIC families. We continue to work with the Western Region Office so that we can push those extension waivers. We want to be able to have flexibilities. We want to be able to do as much as we can do within the federal regulations. We have a team of staff who are working to provide guidance and tools in the event that those waivers are not extended. We want you to be able to provide services safely for both you, your staff, and your families. So how will we expand to provide remote services when possible? Well, hopefully we'll have that teletask with the additional ability to submit proofs ready to go for you. And we're looking at the virtual platform that we're very, very close to having in place. We move forward in developing training and tools, trainings for virtual counseling and group classes, additions to the video conferencing toolkit, and look to expand our online classes. As breastfeeding remains a core service within WIC, the state has plans to update breastfeeding support and promotion policies and staff trainings. USDA has announced that the long-awaited breastfeeding curriculum will be available this fall. We will continue to host quarterly webinars for WIC breastfeeding leaders and look forward to working with CWA and the California Breastfeeding Coalition to provide additional guidance and resources for new curricula. Talk about breastfeeding. Let's think about the breastfeeding peer counseling program. Right now, we're going to take a moment and hear about one of the many successes that this program has had.
And it was like, do you want to be a breastfeeding counselor? Like, can you help other women? You know, it had like these 3 questions, and I answered. I was like, yes, I can help people breastfeed. So I'm trying to think, how do I start this? When I tell the Brandy story of how I became a lactation consultant. How can I start off? So I was a 21-year-old college student. I ended up getting pregnant, and I found myself at WIC. Like, okay, I am a broke college student. I need to feed myself. So I got WIC. And I went to WIC. I remember taking the breastfeeding class at the time, and the teacher was like stacking the Lego blocks up about the benefits of breastfeeding. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I didn't know how the difference really was with breastfeeding and formula. And so when I had her, I breastfed her. Everything was like the perfect experience. Like, I didn't have any sore nipples. I didn't have bad latch. Like, my baby just came out. She was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be breastfed baby. And then the WIC counselor was just impressed that I was still breastfeeding my baby exclusively. It was like, she couldn't believe it. She's like, so you're only breastfeeding her? And I was like, yeah. And I was thinking in my head, why is she like making it seem like I'm an anomaly or something? Like, isn't everyone breastfeeding their babies? And so as I was leaving that appointment, it was like a job announcement flyer on the walls. I was waiting to pick up my checks. And it was like, do you want to be a breastfeeding counselor? Like, can you help other women? And so I was like, yes, I can help people breastfeed. So as I began to work at WIC, I found out that women weren't breastfeeding. And on top of that, I found out that Black women weren't breastfeeding. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand why weren't people breastfeeding. My whole goal for becoming an IBCLC was to serve and help Black women breastfeed. And West Oakland has a high Black African American population. I started the Breast Friends Mommy group here. It is a group for pregnant and breastfeeding African American mamas, babies, daddies if they want to come in, partners, friends, grandmamas, whoever wants to come to this group and learn about breastfeeding, this is the group for them. It's open to the community, not only WIC participants, but also the West Oakland community for people who might not be WIC eligible. But it's a safe space for Black women to be able to share their experiences around birth, around breastfeeding with no judgment. But the cool thing about the group is that the mamas lead the group. They teach the group. If they have a question, someone brings up a question, I shoot it back to them. I'm like, oh, you know, Tiffany went through that experience. She can tell you how to breastfeed. She can tell you how to pump. She can tell you how to heal your sore nipples. And so it became that they became breast friends. They became sisters. And they became each other's support. So if I'm not around, they know that they have other people who are breastfeeding who they could get support from. The group has been going for 6 years strong. We served over 500 Black families, babies and mamas. And the coolest thing I feel about my group compared to other breastfeeding groups is that we breastfeed extendedly. A lot of the mamas in our group have breastfed 2 and 3 years, and they're excited. They're the first people in their family to have done extended breastfeeding. So they're excited. They're breaking stigma. They're breaking stereotypes. When people are like, "Oh, that baby's too big," or "That baby has teeth," you shouldn't be breastfeeding. They know what to say now. They're like, "Well, actually, my milk is still beneficial," and they can tell them a long list of reasons why. Say that WIC changed my life. WIC and breastfeeding really changed my life. The WIC being able to give me a job, give me skills, show me there's this big gigantic world about birth and lactation and advocacy and education. Like, I didn't know Black people were sick and dying. I had no idea. I just thought we were healthy and fine like everyone else. And when I started learning about the socioeconomic statuses and how those health disparities really, or where you live really impacts your health, I was just like, what? And then putting it when I'm going to the breastfeeding conferences and I'm hearing that if you breastfeed, you're less likely to have all these health disparities. A lot of times, Black women aren't hearing that message. They're not hearing this little simple thing that you can do can really impact your health for the rest of your life and your baby's health. I tell a lot of my clients a lot of times, like, breastfeeding will change your life. Like, it just opens up doors that you never would have known how it would have been open. So I'm thankful really for that experience. But now I'm able to give back to my community. I'm able to teach other Black women about breastfeeding. But yeah, I'm just thankful for WIC because it really changed my life.
I hope you enjoyed that video as much as we enjoyed making it. Brandy is such an excellent representative of the WIC program. But now I'm going to talk to you a bit about the vendor management branch led by Lantrell. As many of you know, we lost Lantrell to redirection of COVID, but he's back, and we're thrilled that another member of our team has returned. Lantrell leads a very active team listed on the screen who assure that our vendor community is fully available to serve our participants. This past year, VMB has provided hours upon hours of assistance to our vendor community. Many of you do not know this, but the VMB staff were in stores throughout implementation, ensuring the products were in the approved product list and visiting grocers to assure that the equipment was ready for our participants. In spring, we're going to be launching an online shopping group to learn more about the online shopping process and develop recommendations for action. We know that this is something that so many of you have spoken about. It's been something that we're very interested in, and we're going to be ready to look at it with some serious recommendations for action. Next is our policy and planning branch. I know that many of you know this team led by Joel Reynolds. Regularly, you hear from this group as our regulations have changed and will continue to change with the advent of EWIC. Not only do they work on regulations, but they develop policies and further explain the regulatory requirements. This team also was the one that created that approved product list for the original EWIC, but also for COVID, as we know that we had to add many foods so that our participants were able to go to the grocery stores and get what they needed to feed their families. And of course, all of the social media that's been coming out comes from this group as well. Talk a little bit about some regulations. We're planning to amend the WIC authorized food list in 2021. The first is to amend the current waffle egg regulations to allow cage-free eggs. Many of you know that was approved by voters in 2018. The law requires that all eggs that are sold in California will be cage-free by the end of 2021. The second plan is to allow half gallons of milk. I know that this is something that some of our participants will really appreciate, as transportation is an issue, and it's very difficult for some people to be traveling on buses or by foot with gallons of milk, and sometimes a smaller jug of milk will be better for our participants. The date for this change is to be announced, but we're hoping to implement it by next year. CDPH's food package unit is in the middle of a food policy review project. This project entails reviewing current policy for future changes with the goal of expanding food choices. Listed here are some of the items that are currently being evaluated. All of these changes will be in our next shopping guide, which will be released in 2022. It's a lot of work to get to that date. Food policy is also analyzing policy changes that includes the factors that we are listed here on the screen. All of these areas need to be looked at as we decide which foods we add into the waffle. CDPH is monitoring online trends to increase online engagement with the WIC program. The app is a key tool that participants use every single day. WIC worked closely with the behavioral science group to help us identify some improvements to the current app. Many improvements and fixes that local agencies have requested are coming soon. They're in the works as we speak. Updates to the My Family participant websites were made in spring of 2020. Future updates will include these items. And incidentally, we've been monitoring the webpage use of My Family, and it has gone up exponentially. So people are really enjoying that webpage. Digital presence and outreach also includes the maximizing and tracking of all of the social media efforts. CDPH WIC has developed a social media calendar through August 2021. And this was with input from the WIC Outreach Committee, who's been working really hard the past few years in improving our social media work. In the spring of 2020, CDPH has developed social media on topics that include COVID-related materials, the WIC card, the WIC app, farmers market, breastfeeding, as well as some materials on WIC summer snacks and fitness. We look forward to the next year where we're going to be, or to the next month, we're going to be adding some postings on voter registration and remote services promotion and these other items that are listed on the slide. Stay tuned. CDPH WIC continues to partner with local agencies through this outreach committee to assess the best ways to reach participants and meet the needs of all of our local agencies. Our next meeting will be in October, And we're going to be looking a little bit more on how do we actually partner with these groups that we've already begun partnering with. And now I'd like to talk a little bit about the data analysis and research evaluation team. This is led by Susan, who we hear periodically on how to do those reports and all of the other research items that are so important to our local agencies. Susan has a great staff. She has 2 research scientists, 3. Both of these are high-level research scientist positions that are currently being recruited, and you'll be learning more about those folks very, very soon. With the implementation of WIC-WISE, as well as the abundance of new program data, such as UPC level food purchases, DARE focused on getting comfortable with the data, recreating older reports and analysis, as well as building new reports and analysis. In particular, DARE wants to make access to data as easily as possible for everyone. While WIC-WISE came populated with some New York reports, DARE has been working with state and local agency staff to create our own. So far, 17 new reports have been added for local agencies, and we are continuing to work on building new ones. Additionally, DARE is working to populate the new Tableau-based data reporting platform, RAD, as Susan talks about from time to time, with pre-built reports that are relatively easy for staff to run, yet they provide the power to slice and dice and look at trends that are important to local agencies as we make decisions about our programming. However, not that EWIC implementation is complete yet, because we still have a lot of work to do. And DARE wants to continue to increase collaboration with local agency staff in order to hear directly about your reporting needs. A new data users committee will be established, and this will be an application process for people who have a good understanding of data and how to run data and understand the needs of local agencies' data operations. In addition to providing input for new WIC-WISE and RAD reports, the committee will also help with reviewing and commenting on draft reports, as well as testing and validating reports before we release them for production. This collaboration will also help identify additional training needs to maximize the use of reports and data. And of course, now we move to WIC-WISE, always moving forward and making changes and adaptations to meet your needs. This is under the Information Technology Manager, Carrie Sachs. On this slide, you'll find scheduled change releases. As you read through these, you will see that these changes have been requested by many of you. Thank you for your patience as we move through these processes to get things ready for you. We have some coming in on August, September, and finally there's some in October and December and the beginning of the new year. Of course, there will always be more changes, and they will all go through this change release process that many of you are very familiar with. Auto issuance. This is something, of course, that we started during COVID to help it get our benefits to our participants as quickly as possible and as expeditiously as possible. We've certainly learned quite a bit of that. The good news is that we plan on doing auto issuance through the end of the year. I believe this will help you as our future still seems a little uncertain. CDPH WIC worked with 3 Sigma to develop 2 WIC-WISE auto issuance report that you've all become familiar with. CDPH WIC has created a mailbox for local agency to submit requests for WIC-WISE and the California WIC app changes and enhancements. We are currently working on a template for use when submitting requests that will provide us with sufficient information to evaluate and prioritize these suggestions. We are also planning a users group to gain local agency feedback on these changes. Look forward to that. And of course, what would we do without our operations branch? The Assistant Division Chief, William Welch, has a very solid team that makes sure that all of our operational needs are intact. Sometimes they're a little bit behind the scenes, but as Chris mentioned earlier, some of these folks showed up for implementation and went for the kickoff and the go live, and you would have the opportunity to meet those folks who are actually there for you day to day. The operation team is the one who monitors all of our dealings with USDA, the California Department of Finance, and the legislature. They make sure that we are ready and fit financially to serve all of our participants. And then last but not least, we just wanted to mention to you one of the most important pieces of our work, and that is the committee meetings. This is where we get to meet with you one-on-one. In the past, it was face-to-face, but in the future, it will be through virtual, so that we can continue to work together to meet the needs of our participants. You'll see here that we have several of these that are already planned for September, and then we have some that are always ongoing, our quarterly breastfeeding committee and our outreach committee, and then all of the work groups. And then coming soon, of course, that data users committee that many of you are very excited to have. And we look forward to that group. Wanted to just take this opportunity on behalf of everyone here at WIC that we will continue to refine our work as our external work evolves. We are very much committed to be alongside of you and to be responsive to the needs of our participants with you who meet the participants face to face each day. I want to thank you for this time together. It has been quite the roller coaster. And I know that I've enjoyed working with each and every one of you and getting to know you all better as we maneuver through these very difficult times. And before I sign off, I just want to say that we have a very special gift that the State WIC staff has put together just for you. And it's a gift in a wonderful video that you will enjoy. Thanks so much.
I need to thank Napa and Solano counties for jumping off the cliff with us in June for the pilot. You didn't know what you were getting into. We didn't know what we were getting into, and you were right there with us, the brave leaders of this project. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
During pilot, they took on a system that was still in development, and it was very rough. And they still managed to get those cards issued and get the pilot approved by the USDA so that we could begin rollout. Big thanks to you and your staff for being the trailblazers.
It has been the best thing that I've done here at WIC, the best opportunity I've had, because it's really allowed me to get out and to see really the great work that people do on site.
It's so neat to see them actually work with the participants. I've seen terrific referrals and domestic violence support. I've seen breastfeeding support just off the charts. So it's really neat. And I love that. I just love connecting with them and the participants.
I remember Long Beach. We were listening to a gal in the support center, and she didn't know we were there, and she was taking a call. And you could tell that the person on the other end was without a family. And we were listening and just not monitoring her, but we were just there for support. And she ended up saying, well, you do have a WIC family, you have us now. And so I looked at my co-trainer and she looked at me, and we just basically were looking at each other like, I'm not crying, you're crying. And it was kind of a back and forth, and we had to, I had to leave because I didn't think I was going to instill much confidence with the staff downstairs in Long Beach if I came out all puffy-eyed.
There was one particular participant that I will always remember. When I was talking with her about how she could buy what she wanted, when she wanted, instead of everything at one time, she said it was liberating. And then when I explained the WIC app to her, how she could scan a food item to confirm that it was authorized before she went to the register, she said that was empowering. And I just want to sit with that for a minute. Liberating and empowering.
What I've noticed, and in every single wave, and including here at the state office, that there are staff that have been there for decades. Like, I've been with WIC for 8, and that's very young in WIC years. But there's 20, 30 years, people stay with WIC, and I think that just really goes to show that once you get to WIC, you see the impact that you're having with families, with the community, and you just find a home and you stay there. And I think it's a testament to the program.
It's a found family.
It is a found family. That's terrific. Yes, I can even see myself staying here forever.
I found out WIC is more of a vocation than a job. You really need a calling for it. I met so many people who had been there 20 years plus, 30, 35 years. There's hardly any job turnover, it seems like. Amazed with the dedication, amazed with the passion, and I learned something every time I went out. Had a great time.
So I had a great experience in Oakland with Brandy Gates. That was one of the first local agencies I think I was out for wave support. And Brandy just bounced between, workstation to workstation to make sure it happened. We're having a little bit of technical issues at that point, but as the day moved on, the smoother things got and participants were served. And during the downtime, having discussions, they leveraged some of the downtime to talk about breastfeeding and different things, about the card. So it was really great to see how the local agencies, use that time, some of that downtime to better serve participants.
I want to take a moment to say how honored I feel to have been part of this journey with you. I want to thank you for your cooperation and dedication over this past year throughout this journey of the WIC Card WIC-Wise project. I want to say that California WIC could not have done this without you. WIC-Wise will continue to improve. We will continue to provide you with resources that you need to provide the best WIC services to our WIC participants. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your time, your patience, and continue to do the great work that you are doing.
Thank you for going through this journey with us. We all knew it was going to be a hard journey. We could not have done it without you. I think it was just a fabulous opportunity for the state and for the local agencies and the clinics and the staff down there to really get to know each other and to get to understand how we actually really support each other. And we have the same goal and the same objective, which is to improve the lives of the people that we serve.
You've all made it through all of the months of rollout, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all of the great service you've provided to WIC participants before this, during, and I know after the rollout. So thank you and congratulations.
I just want to say thank you so much for everyone's dedication, patience with this project, and just all around support. It has taken a lot of collaboration and teamwork to see this project through, but it has been a successful rollout, statewide rollout, so thank you very much.
I would just like to thank all the people I worked with in the local agencies. Your insight and seeing how hard you guys work to make it happen for our participants gives me a lot of insight on how to better manage the vendor side of the house so that that complete circle is there. And when a participant walks out of that local agency and goes to the next store, that the chain continues to move on and we complete that full service to our participants.
But we are doing this to make things better for families in California. And that's so easy to get behind. And so we are successful because of all of you. So thank you.
Shokran loko. Kitos. Shasha. Spasibo. Arigato gozaimasu. Mahalo. Salamat. Merci. Gracias. Thank you! From Local Agency Communications Team at CWA WIC.
Take me out to California. Take me out to California. I feel the day is coming to an end.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, San Diego Wick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be coming home soon. So take me out to California, where the sun is always high, where the streets are paved with gold and no one ever gets old.
Yay, Eva! Last day of printing checks.
Take me home, California, California, here I come. I've seen it all upon the silver screen. The happy faces and a sign upon a hill. The wine is flowing and the fields forever green. And all your hopes and dreams will always be fulfilled. So I'll be coming real soon. Yeah, I'll be coming real soon. So take me out to California, where the sun is always high, where the streets